there's no clear linear paths to becoming a full-blown cyber professional. Even a lot of boot camps are not built that way. It's more so there's this, there's this, there's this, but there's no linear path of becoming a professional.
I would like to move you back a bit because there's usually that issue of when you tell someone, okay, you have to try out different things. It now becomes a maze of sorts because you find that people, one morning they're a SOC, then the next they're a pen tester, then all of a sudden they're a CTF professional.
Right.
Then the next one, you get the point.
Right.
Bug bounty also is another big one. So how do you cool down someone as a sensei? Hello and welcome to the Cyber Weekly. Today we are hosting Hunain Amir. Hunain is the Cyber Sensei. So he's going to tell us about it and actually how you got to be called the Cyber Sensei. That's an interesting name to be called. So welcome, Amir.
Yeah. Dio, first and foremost, thanks for having me on. You and I were talking about it, but really some of the work that you've been doing is amazing. I've been seeing it on LinkedIn. Some of the folks that have been on your podcast, I've had a chance to get to know them as well. So I appreciate you for doing this, man. This is good work.
Thank you. I highly appreciate. So when it comes to cybersecurity, tell us actually how you actually got into cybersecurity.
Right. So my career journey started in an interesting way. So I went to university here in Toronto, Canada, called York University, and I wasn't really good in school, but I understood computers the most. So I enrolled in a fairly generalized program called the Information Technology program, and with that I got a chance to learn multiple different things, and like I said, a fairly generalized set of courses, and in that set of courses, there was no path or kind of a linear way of doing certain things. Yeah, so um, and essentially 2 years into my program, I've started to realize that okay, this degree is great, but I don't necessarily know if it's gonna get me a role or a job. And more importantly, I didn't even know what I wanted to do, let alone what kind of a job, right? At this point, I'm just doing this for the sake of my immigrant parents and just to make them happy, but I didn't really necessarily know if after 4 years or 3 years or whatever, where am I even gonna land or where I'm gonna go. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna take a year off and look for internships. And luckily, I found an internship as an IT or help desk um, at a company called Herjavec Group. At that time, it was called Herjavec Group. Now they're called Res. Robert Herjavec's company, everybody know Robert, who's now a famous celebrity at this point. Um, and there I got a chance to learn a lot. I got a chance to meet a lot of people. We're doing a lot of cybersecurity work. I didn't even know what managed services was. I didn't even know what Splunk was. I don't know what SIM was. I don't know anything, right? And all these new terminologies being thrown at me left, center, right. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
This seems very interesting. And I remember doing a Splunk power user certification there, and I felt so cool and smart. I'm like, okay, I know Splunk. Clearly, I didn't know anything what Splunk even was, let alone it was a SIM and so on and so forth. Um, and from there, it's just been a downhill, right? After that, downhill or uphill, I don't know what I want to call it. Um, my internships after those 8 months at a Herjavec Group, I landed another internship at RBC, Royal Bank of Canada. Went back to school for another 4 more months, came back again for another four months of internship. So when I graduated, I had 2 years of experience, and then I was able to land my first role. And I've been working in cyber ever since. Worked as an engineer, worked as a lead engineer, um, and now working as a manager. And now, aside from the whole cyber sensei and mentorship and all that stuff, which I thoroughly enjoy, I started my own cybersecurity consulting firm called Syfera, which I'm super proud of. And yeah, just been very, very heavily involved with the community as much as I can.
Yeah, I think one thing which people don't usually realize is those internships or programs which allow you to actually volunteer. They're usually like the first steps you actually get into cybersecurity. Because at the end of the day, like no one is going to just give you the keys to someone's
Right.
crown jewels that you go and start working there. And
Exactly.
they don't have that level of trust on you. So
No, no,
it's built,
absolutely.
yeah, it's built over time, and all of us begin from there. Yeah. So, um, now the tricky question is why cybersecurity and why Cyber Sensei as in
Right.
title?
Uh,
Mm.
yeah, let me hopefully demystify this mystery. Firstly, why cyber? So cybersecurity has always been this kind of an intersection of kind of technology, and as I kind of grew in my career, I realized, okay, so it's psychology and it's a lot more responsibility, right? So one mistake or one weakness or one bad decision essentially could affect millions of people, thousands, hundreds of people, right? And that responsibility is, to me, resonates a lot. It's to be able to build an infrastructure or architect an infrastructure and in a secure manner and emphasizing on that, uh, eh, to me, that keeps me going, right? Um, so I'm very proud of the fact that I'm in this space and I get to do this every single day, um, and safeguard organizations and so on and so forth. But yeah, and to your second question, what the heck is Cyber Sensei? Um, so the title really comes from the idea of teaching with discipline and humility and real world experience. And a sensei of to me always, whether you watch Mr. Miyagi or any, Karate Kid and Mr. Miyagi and all these senseis and like Hollywood movies, they don't never ever, at least that's the depiction is, and it's true, is that they never dump knowledge, right? They guide, um,
Yeah.
and they challenge and they help students grow, right? So a lot of the mentors and a lot of people that I've spoken is like this is cyber. They'll dump A, B, C, D, E, F, G, everything, and a student is left with nothing but extremely overwhelming amount of emotions, and you just don't know where
Yeah.
to go, and it causes more confusion than leads to any resolution. So the whole idea of Cyber Sensei really came that, okay, you sit down, you help a student from A to Z, and guide them and work with their strengths and their weaknesses as well, right?
Yeah, I think that's key because sometimes you find that we don't usually get the basics right, especially in cybersecurity. Just run from one to the other. If you see
Right.
another exciting tool, you just go and try to figure out
Right.
exactly how to use how to
Right,
use it.
exactly.
Like, so I think it's like a systemic problem in our industry to some point that everyone wants to get going and the basics are not usually got right, and that's where these hackers usually get us. Um, how can education in institutions better prepare students for these careers in cybersecurity?
I touched a little bit more on that, right? I think we were talking about information overload, right? So there are, you could say there's way too many tools. There's way too many certifications, and there's conflicting advice, right? Everyone's just saying their own piece,
Yeah.
and it's like, who do I follow? Like, who do I listen to, right? And that itself is as you mentioned, dear, like, it could lead to potential confusion within a professional, and you just could lead to even a breach, right? You're just doing and learning multiple different tools, and you just don't know what you're doing, right? So that
Mm.
itself, there needs to be more catered to a linear path, if you will, um, for a student to be made. I
A
think the other
sensor way
factor is,
of teaching.
sorry, right,
A
right,
cyber
right, right.
sensor way of teaching.
Yeah, exactly. The cyber sensitive
Yeah.
teaching, right?
Yeah.
I think to me, other factor is kind of the lack of hands-on experience as well. So at least in universities, right? It's like, okay, theoretical. This is how things are supposed to be, blah blah blah. But it's never 90, or I would say at least the first 80% of our of roles that when you kick off your career, it's all hands-on. As a SOC, analyst, as a junior pen tester, or any early level careers that you're doing, it's all hands-on. And if you're not doing a lot of hands-on work, you're not gonna learn, right? 90% of the stuff that I know, I learned because, well, I was curious and I stood up a VM and I started playing around with this different tools and I'm like, okay, this is how this works and this is how that works. I didn't learn from university. I didn't learn from a college. It's just a bunch of Udemy courses that I did for 15 bucks and went through them. And I'm like, okay, I know how to do this now, and I can throw that on my resume. I did a try hack me course. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. That's a path. Love it, right? So hands-on experience is so crucial. And I think there's a whole aspect of um, fear of not being technical enough as well. I think that there is that imposter syndrome also kicks off later in people and their careers. I've spoken to a lot of mid-level professionals and senior level professionals that they say that, well, we got our CISSP and we got our CISM and we got our CRISC and so on, all these different ISACA certifications, but I don't know about technical stuff. I don't know much about that. And I think personally, if you want to be a complete cyber professional, you got to know the left and the right. You got to know everything. You got to know as much as you can. You got the business stuff will come down the line for sure, like the risk management and so on and so forth. But at earlier in your career, you got to get hands on. You got to get your hands dirty and do a lot of the technical work, and that will eventually help you aid with your third party risk management and so on and so forth. So I think that there's no clear linear path to becoming a full-blown cyber professional. Even a lot of boot camps are not built that way. It's more so there's this, there's this, there's this, but there's no linear path of becoming a professional, right?
I would like to move you back a bit, because there's usually that issue of when you tell someone, okay, you have to try out different things. It now becomes a maze of sorts because you find that people, one morning they're a SOC, then the next they're a pen tester, then all of a sudden they're a CTF professional. Then the next one, you get the point. Bug bounty also is another big one. So, how do you cool down someone as a sensei?
Right, right.
And
Yeah, I
mm,
think to me, um, it's not. You really have to, uh, you know, take a step back and like you mentioned, cool down, just relax, I know everyone's just trying to fill up your resume, but we professionals can sniff out the fluff really really quickly, right? And the idea is that we're not trying to just fluff up your resume and be like, I know everything, because in an interview or something you will get picked up on, right? So the idea is, let's say if you are in, I don't know, if you decided that, you watch Mr. Robot and you're like, I want to be a pen tester. I want to be like Mr. Robot, right? Um, Great, you've decided that. Let's sit down and work towards it, right? You just can't one day wake up and be like, great. I mean, I don't think I can do, I don't think I can, I don't have the capability of exploiting a vulnerability, so I'm going to be a SOC analyst now, right? No, I think there are learning curves. It's going to take time for everything, right? And someone like me who has done OSCP and OSWP and all these OffSec certifications, I, I you know I I I did it purely because I was curious about it, not because I wanted to pivot into OffSec at all. I wanted to learn because, well, if I get into these conversations, I know I can handle myself. I can have these conversations. I'm not doing it because now I want to pivot my entire career into OffSec. I don't think I can ever do that, right? I think as I've worked as an engineer, I love doing a lot of the defensive and implementing controls. I'm now slowly pivoting into more managerial and risk management because that's my trajectory of my career is going in that way. But you can't just hippity hop, and one day do defensive work and the other day, and by all means, I'm not discouraging people to be like, hey, don't learn about the defensive techniques, or don't learn about, how to exploit a vulnerability. By all means, in your spare time, you should be doing these things. It's very, very important. But, you know, if your goal tomorrow is to become a purple teamer, yeah, do a little bit of both in your own spare time. But there is no like, yeah, I want to be a SOC analyst, and our next role should be a pen tester, and then my third role should be back to being SOC, and then you can't do that, right? So it takes, again, it's a linear path. It takes time. If you decide to be a purple teamer, I can almost guarantee you, someone who's starting their career don't want to. That's not how it works. They're not going to be like, I want to be a purple teamer. I think later down in their career, when they become a lot more technical, they're like, I think I can do both, and I think I can be an advisor for kind of both the teams, right? So it's not like you decide that very early on. It's more so later down your career, where when you start to, the pivot makes sense, and it's more so a higher
More
up
of a
role rather than
gradual
more.
process. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Mm. So, according to you, how is now AI impacting all this? Because definitely we use a lot of AI in our systems nowadays. So, especially in terms of improving our education and also our network security, how are you seeing it play out?
Right. I think so. AI has been interesting, right? Because I've been using a lot and I'm loving it. But I think it's been more so an aiding tool rather than I'm just gonna replace a human being completely, right? I think AI is great as a professional, as a student. It's always it has made our lives a lot easier. It's gonna continue to make our lives a lot easier. But to heavily depend on it completely and be brainless and just be like, let AI do everything, that's where the problem starts to kind of occur, right? Because now your every aspect of your life and now is now dependent on AI, and that's a problem. I'm going through that problem as well. I'm not, I'd rather let AI write my emails than me writing myself. It's just easier, right? But
Yeah.
sometimes you gotta dial it down a bit and be like, you know what? Let me write it myself. I'm capable of doing it. Why would I let some computer do it for me, right? Um, so I think it like I said, it should be used for students and professional as an aiding tool rather than, and I know this trend now, a lot of startups and so on are completely replacing, if their company don't have AI, it's not gonna sell, right? It's like nice and shiny and wrapped up, and they're like, look, we have our tool. It's it has AI. To what capability? I don't know. Um, but yeah, I think you know it's an aiding tool, and it should always be an aiding tool.
Yeah, true. According to you, mm, if you look at how to incorporate the hands-on labs, where can someone start from?
Yeah. I love that question. And the reason I love that question is because there are endless amount of resources, but I'll give a few. Um, my favorite, and I've learned tons of stuff from it, is TryHackMe. And I'm sure a lot of people know about it, so I'm not giving anyone something new. TryHackMe
Yeah.
to me is the best way that you can learn 90% of the cybersecurity tools and technologies. Of course, there's some enterprise stuff that you wouldn't know,
Definitely.
right? You may learn a lot of like what a SIM does, what an EDR does, what an MDR does, and so on. It's amazing because it holds your hand and it guides you to getting to learning a specific way of learning a specific tool and how it works and the nitty gritty of it, right? Um, and even then, always recommend people who are um, that are trying to pivot into cyber because they think that cybersecurity has a lot of money, and they're like, I want to pivot into cybersecurity because we make a lot of money. And I'm like, sure, let's see if you even want to do this, right? Don't let money be just a factor of. So I usually tell them to go through Try Hack Me to see if they can do some sort of introductory path. And oftentimes people come up and say, yeah, well, like I want to do this because it's fun. It's not boring. It's not dry. It's just very fun activities and it's very interactive. So I'm not like going through a thick book of CISSP and losing my brain. I'm actually learning something that is hands-on, right? And take those skills and put it on my resume too. So TryHack Me is the best. If you're a little bit on the OffSec and want to learn how to pen test and all that stuff, Hack the Box is the best. Of course, things get a little bit more technical there, but Hack the Box is great. And my favorite, and oftentimes people don't talk about it, and maybe they do. I actually don't know. This may be maybe a little bit more pricier because you have to pay for each course, but Udemy has very catered courses to learning specific things. I didn't know what AppSec was. I didn't know what DevSecOps was, but I learned what Kubernetes does. I learned what the whole how Jenkins work, what is the CI/CD pipeline and how it works. Um, I didn't do any of the stuff in work, but I learned it because I was curious, and I'm like, let me just take a course in Udemy, and that should help me out. Um, so those are some of the resources that I would say. And of course, YouTube, right, is free. You're more than welcome to go on YouTube and find the best courses. Other thing that I would also recommend is Reddit. People have really good opinions oftentimes. So the cybersecurity subreddit is great. So feel free to scout through, see if something makes sense. Um, but the problem with that is that everybody has very conflicting opinions, so that could cause a lot of confusion. Um, but yeah, if you don't want any confusion, just stick with Try Hack Me. I think that should make your life a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think I'm one of the living testimonies of TryHack, even though
Right.
I didn't finish my SOC analyst level one class.
Right, right,
We've
right.
stopped somewhere, but the level of knowledge they teach you to build like your foundation in terms of cybersecurity. I've not seen it in the degree program, at least as of yet.
No,
And it really helped, especially building your ideas of how does cybersecurity work, how do you structure it, those things of cyber kill chain you understand, or might attack framework. Those are very
exactly.
key things, which
Right.
most of the times is not so much talked about in a degree program.
Right.
Yeah.
No, nor, and plus it's even like it's very boring to just sift through, MITRE ATT&CK framework, right? Like just really boring to just read through it.
Yeah.
Like what are they talking about? But
Yeah.
they make it so interesting. It's like, okay, that is this and this is that.
Mm,
Ah, okay. Or OWASP top 10. It's like, okay, now it makes sense. But if I were to sit
yeah.
through a documentation with my attention span of a 5-year-old, I would hate it, right? Um,
Yeah.
so Track Me has someone with very slow attention span. It has helped me immensely.
Yeah. And Udemy, I also use it a lot. One good thing about Udemy of recently, they actually introduced their AI, and it comes bundled with the course. I don't know if you've tested it out in
No, I
terms
haven't.
of, yeah, so it's part of those options, especially in the course outline. There is that extra portion where they put the AI, and you can actually ask it questions concerning that particular material. It redirects you to exactly that area, which
Right.
is really interesting.
Wow.
And I
Right.
guess they're trying to woo us more. I actually recently saw I recently saw something of theirs where they were trying to do a collaboration with the Coursera. I don't know how that will work out specifics, but yeah, that's interesting. Those are very good platforms. Then our favorite is YouTube, for obvious reasons, and Hack the
Love YouTube.
Box for the top G's like you.
I'm not no
Uh,
top G. I'm a very noob. I have a really noob ranking on Hack the Box. So, nowhere near.
okay. Um, According to you, there's always this challenge of scheduling because you've talked of all these trainings, but now someone will be like, oh, this guy has this number of certificates. Me, I have nothing. And he's telling me try hack me, he's talking about OSCP, he's talking about this and this. Where do I start from and how do I plan my day? These 24 hours, which doesn't seem to add up sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I don't want to scare people, and I'm sure Dio, you probably know this too, but cybersecurity is there's a lot of learning. I mean, if you think you're gonna do a 4-year degree and be like, I'm gonna just do my job and just,
Stick to
you're
my job.
yeah, yeah, maybe you'll be fine. Right? You'll do your job. But if you want to move within your careers, if you want to be a purple teamer, if you really want to be a CISO, and every CISO that I've spoken to, they were putting hours in their early careers, right? Is that after their job they would just sit and study. After their jobs they would do some sort of an extracurricular thing, whether that's to get involved with, you know, mentoring or speaking at some sort of an event or prepping for something else. You cannot expect that, you know, good things will come towards you if you're just gonna do your 9 to 5. And I mean they will. I'm not saying, but you're if you just with the same knowledge that you're doing your job every single day, you'll always remain stagnant, right? So after your 5 o'clock, it's time to get to work, right? It's time to put in maybe 1 hour or 2 hours from 5 till 12 at night, right? I don't know what people's sleeping schedules like, but clearly you see I have eye bags and that means something, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
there is no such thing as um I don't know. For me, I don't think there's a such thing as 9 to 5 because after 5 there's always more things to do. Um so if anything, I think it's the earlier you develop this habit of I have to study. I have to do some sort of certification. I have to learn a new skill. I have to, do some sort of like a very light certification. That shouldn't stop you with anything. I mean, just because I have an OSCP, that shouldn't be like, if anything, it should be like, I want to get it too. Or if someone has a CISSP, I want to get it too. I know so many of my friends have CISSP, and it makes me jealous. And I'm like, how come I don't have it? I got to put in work. I'm gonna put in another like 4 or 5 hours. And if I fail again, I'll put in another 4 or 5 hours. And if I fail again, I'll put in another 4 or 5 hours. Got to keep on going, and that's that drive that can't stop until maybe we become a CISO. And I think, if anything, I've spoken to a lot of CISOs. They've gotten so busy, speaking all these different conferences and so on and so forth. Um, so yeah, it's I don't know about I don't know much about how to balance your life and your career and all that, unfortunately. So I would be the worst person to ask. Um, but really, I think for me, after 5, you got to put at least an hour somewhere in learning about a certain skill. Um, Even if it's not cyber, man, even if it's something your personal, you gotta put an hour to just learn something fresh and new, and it'll keep you going as a person.
Yeah, that is true. So I'm guessing for us human beings, I don't know where we fall because some of you who sleep for 2 hours, I'm not sure how we will fare. Yeah, yeah. So with the 1 hour, but I think 1 hour is still possible. But yeah, I think it kind of dives into the passion of it all
Right.
that keeps you driving. But I think also one key thing that you kind of mentioned, but if someone has not picked it, I think let me highlight it, which is the peer pressure. There's good peer pressure. The fact that you're seeing your friend getting a CISSP, you'll be like, ah man, how did you get it? How can I attain it? which
Right.
is which is also very key, especially when it comes to development, because now
Right.
if your peers are actually not interested in such things, you'll be like, what's the point? And
Exactly.
there's no that positive reinforcement to keep on driving
Exactly.
that particular habit.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Agreed.
yeah. So for those who don't know the max cybersecurity, what is it?
Right. Yeah. So Max Cybersecurity is something I am very, very proud of. So I'm part of this organization called Max, which is the term for Max is Muslims Achieving Excellence. And the idea is that under the umbrella of Max, there's multiple different pillars. So there's AI, there's finance, there's all these different areas, women in leadership. And I met the founder of Max, and I pitched the idea of Max Cyber, Azar Zafar, and I'm like, hey Azar, I think there needs to be a Max Cyber. And he's like, I don't know what cybersecurity even is. And he's a pure finance guy. He doesn't know what cyber is. And like, look, I think there is a huge population, at least in Toronto and GTA, of Muslim cyber professionals that just doesn't have a voice, or even if they have a voice, they don't have a specific community. And um, and I'd love to build that kind of a community. I'd love to found it, and from there, it's been great, right? It's been uphill. So we are in our third year now. We've hosted a lot of sessions for elderly, so teaching them about cybersecurity, how to safe keep them from like, pig butchering scams and so on and so forth. And what's unfortunate is that elderly are the most susceptible in our community, right? Um, and more specifically the ones that are retired and at least in my community in the most South Asian community, the work doesn't end. They just want to keep on working and they keep on want to earn. Um, and you know it's very easy to exploit that mindset when you say, well, like, if you can do this, I'll give you $1,000. And well, and that pig butchering scams are very easy to capture
Yes.
their right. So we've done those kind of sessions on an annual basis. We host cybersecurity summits, and essentially that's where we bring out the big guns, right? The CISOs from big organizations, the big names, and not necessarily they all have to be Muslims. Junior Williams was part of your podcast. He was on our panel as well. Um, a few months ago, well, in October, because that's when we hosted, and it was great. And he was amazing, and he was talked about AI and cybersecurity, and the idea is that we really want to build a Muslim cybersecurity community to help bridge with other communities, right? And wanted to establish that, so that's what we're working on. So it is the first Muslim cybersecurity community in Canada. It doesn't exist, by the way. I don't want to say North America because I know someone will say, "Well, there's one WhatsApp group," but no, it's I do want to say for Canada, it's the first one. Yes.
Yeah, well done on that. And I think it's a very good initiative that can actually help bring more people in the cybersecurity industry. One thing which you forgot to hint at is 2 years ago, to be specific. The reason why I'm saying to be specific is I went through your LinkedIn. I did some OSIT before this. You talked of actually mentorship. And I'm thinking with Max Cybersecurity, are there those options for actually people getting mentored through that?
That is a very good question, and yes, that is true. Max actually has a Max mentorship program, and that is just that's not just catered for cyber, it's catered for everyone. So whether you come from law, whether you come from finance, whether you come from marketing, whether you come from business or tech, which is I'm always kind of partially involved in. So I'm kind of staying away from it because I'm like, I just want to do Max Cyber. Um, Mentorship is a huge part of Max um, uh, organization. And yes, so if people want to get mentored, there is a criteria that you have to fall under, and there's thousands of applications that come every year, and the mentorship team take, take, uh, takes care of all of that, and they do a phenomenal job. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Are you part of the mentorship team?
I am part of the mentorship to some extent. Actually, earlier when I first joined Max, mentorship was my first kind of area that I joined. And I was the lead for tech, and that was kind of helping pair people up. And I paired someone up with someone who was also in cyber, and now she's also in cyber. So it's kind of insane. So I paired the right people together, and she actually ended up getting a job. Um, but not anymore. I'm trying to stay away from those folks because I'm too busy with Max Cyber in my own life and my own consulting stuff and the Cyber Sensei. It's just too much on my plate. My eye bag's getting worse. My family's getting worried. I think I gotta take a step back.
Yeah. You talked of Syfera at the beginning. Yeah. Could you elaborate more on what you do with Syfera?
Yeah, Syfera is a consulting, my consulting kind of a firm, and essentially the idea is to cater it to early startups and schools and very small firms. Is run by me alone, and I'm the solo founder. Um, and a lot of the marketing work, everything A to Z is just done by me. So if you go on the website and it looks super cool, it's all done by me. A lot of the marketing stuff, if you see, all done by me. Uh, and
It's
yeah,
interesting.
that's a harsh reality of starting your own cybersecurity company is that you have to do everything A to Z. There is no marketing dedicated person unless you've been funded heavily, and which I am not. So anyone
I
who's
feel your
hearing and want to
pain.
fund me, hey, I'm always, always, always open, right?
Okay,
So
yeah.
yeah, and again, the idea is just to offer services with integrity and never to upsell folks because I've been in the industry long enough as an engineer, as a manager who have had to deal with a lot of vendors not cutting corners and not upsell folks. Dealt with a lot of sales folks, so the idea is to offer service with good accountability, with integrity, and good service, and that's it. There's no hidden fees, there's no hidden agenda. We're just trying to whatever you ask of us, we will offer, and that's it.
Okay, that's interesting. Um, yes, we've talked a lot, but according to you, is there something actually we've missed out that you would actually want us to talk about, especially
Um,
for this?
I think honestly we've covered like so much, and this was a well covered kind of an episode where I, got to talk everything about a bunch of stuff about myself. I think, which I feel like a narcissist at this point, because it's me talking about myself all the time. Uh, but no, I think, I've I appreciate this. This is you know some of the like I said in the beginning of the podcast, and I'll say it again. The work that you've been doing, Dio, has been insane. It's really good, and not just connecting in your own region, but rather outside, and that's so important. I think I can't wait for this to become even bigger than it already is. Um, so I can be like, yeah, I was on the Cyber Weekly podcast a while back. Uh, but no, it's been a pleasure. This is awesome.
Thank you for that. Definitely, we are pushing for that, and thank you for all the support that you have actually offered to us by coming on the show and also being part of this journey.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes. Um, Finally, where can people find you? Any parting shots for us?
Yeah, if they want to find me, they can always find my first name, last name, Hunain Amir, Hunain Amir, on LinkedIn. I'm super active. My buddies are now calling me the LinkedIn final boss. Apparently, that's a joke running in the group. So I'm always on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. I don't post AI generated stuff, so not a lot of fluff. So no, none of that. But you can always message, always ping me, and always respond unless it's not on, trying to, sell me some new cybersecurity tool with AI integrated in it. I'm probably not going to respond to it. But yes, I'm always on LinkedIn, and of course, feel free to visit my website www.cyfera.com, which is my consulting firm, and you'll find more information about me from there as well if you can't find me on LinkedIn.
Okay, I think we'll add the LinkedIn. If you share also the website, we'll add it in the show notes.
Of course.
Um, yeah. Other than that, thank you for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure being with you and having this conversation with you. Definitely picked a lot, and I'm definitely going to go back to my try hack me and brush up my skills.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure, Dio.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.